to the wrong
Good
screen.
morning. Hello, I'm spinning. Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Ben and Declan on a roll. Declan has no little grippies on his little shoesies. Like a fool.
My flip-flops lost all sort of grip on them. So I literally, I was like, oh no, I can't scoot.
Right. You're like trying to push for your...
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. How are we?
Welcome back, Declan. I missed you.
Yeah, I just before we went live, Ben was like, "Hey, Declan, do you have the overlays set up and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. Yeah." He goes, "No, like, but you have the overlay set up." Ben, if you're looking on the screen, I don't know, maybe my resolution isn't the best, but if you're looking on your screen and you look at the logo right there, there's a little smudge mark where the the Judas. I mean, I don't want to be dramatic about it, but the Judas that.
The good one. The one that's not Iscariot.
Yeah.
Hell, everyone always forgets about second Judas.
The Lady Gaga Judas.
Yeah.
Such a bop.
I cleaned it up pretty good. I'm almost certain I got everything.
Yeah. I'm looking for like any sort of things that I might. Does that? I can still see Amber in the shadow. No, I can't.
No, we scrubbed it up. We made sure there was no remnants of... Oh, look, I'll send it to the shop and make sure it's nice and polished for the next episode.
Yeah. I can't wait till you can't do an episode because you're getting married.
I mightn't be around for July, so feel free to spray paint over. Who knows? Or I might just do it at a different time zone. I might be closer to the morning, which I don't mind.
It works.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fun episode that we are doing today. And if you're like, oh, Ben and Declan seem rusty, we're not rusty. We just haven't prepared anything. Because today's episode is all about prepping and what to do with it if you don't do any of it.
It's prepping and how not to.
Just do this.
Yeah, we decided, we were chatting earlier this week and we were like, what are we gonna... We do have a big calendar of like things to talk about, interviews to do, guests to bring on, all that kind of stuff. And I had in the past done a bank of interviews with people, and we were chatting about what if we did one, because we're both going to be at an event this Sunday, which is D&D Era, running an event in Tullamore. And we'll be able to be running games there. And it's an interesting setup because the module, so to speak, is shared amongst all the tables. So all the DMs are kind of going, well, I'll do a little bit of prep, I'll do this much prep. And we're in this big DM chat, and there's DMs doing loads of prep, and then there's me. Declan. We're on the lower end of things. So we thought, what about a show all about not prepping? And then we thought, great, that means we don't have to prep for this show.
Also, Keith, if you happen to be watching, we have prepped. We're ready. Honestly, like, don't worry, it'll be fine.
Not a tap. No, I have. I'm that annoying, and I always have been that annoying kid, being like, Ben, did you study for the exam? I'm like, no. And then like cramming everything and like getting an A and being like, I thought you said you didn't study. I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't. Studying's for lame-os. Studying's for dorks and nerds.
Yeah, when it comes to prepping for a campaign, I love it. Like I think more. We've already talked about this quite a bit. You know, like world building and so on and so forth. Give me that stuff. That's so much fun. I love knowing as much about the world going into it, and then obviously adding as we go into it. But when it comes to the actual session itself, like let's sit down and play for 3, 6, 9 hours. Sorry, Louise. I've learned to not prep as much. Like, yeah, I'm an over prepper. Like full, like I will show you the pages from like the very first episodes of Romancing the Dungeon, the script, and it was all prep, and these beats. And I always find that those are the sessions I don't enjoy as much.
Right. I think there should be a phrase, but I'm gonna butcher this, but that idea of like, and I actually don't believe in this phrase, but it helps for what I'm talking about. Write drunk, edit sober. In the DM's world, I think it's like edit long term. Sorry, prep long term,
Mm.
no prep short term. As in, like, have a general sense of your world and understand. Just have like a good fluid. Like, I know there's something here. I know I've got this in the back of my brain. I was the same at the start of Homebrew. Super preppy, super over the top, and not that I think railroading in the way it's used is a thing,
Mm.
but for an over prepper like me, it was like, no, go here. Like, and if anyone was watching Homebrew, I started them instead in a tavern at a shipwreck, and they landed on the coast. And I said, "There's a city that way. There's wilderness that way." And they were like, "Yeah, wilderness." And I was like, "But there's a city that way, but the wilderness." I'm like, "There's a city that way." It's like, "But we just came from that city, and there seems to be like nothing from." It's like, "Well, you did." Like, as in we said, that's where the boat set off from. But like, don't you want to know who sunk the boat? And they're like, "No." I was like, "All right, let's play." And so I learned in the very first episode. Sorry, not the first episode of the show, because we were playing a little bit. We were doing pre-games before we started streaming. But in my very first DM session, I learned prep is bullshit. Rather the way I was doing it, which was this has to be here, this has to be here, this is exactly where it is. And then I very quickly learned the city could you don't tell them where the city is. Just be like, there's north and east.
Yeah.
And they're like, east. I'm like, that's where the city is. Good to know. So you can have a moving, flexible, and you can do that when you have a great sense of the world, but don't have beat for beat notes. This has to happen 20 minutes in. This has to happen 25 minutes in. This has to happen 27 minutes in.
It's a map. Ire has just said player gonna mess up plans. Spoken as a player.
Yeah.
100%. And like I think as DMs, we like Ben and I have both spoken about the DM is a player as well, and they want to do so many things their way. With so many ideas in their head. So I think that's often where that railroady thing comes from as well. That like, but this thing that I'm working on in my head is so cool, and then the players coming like, oh wait, there's actual. They have agency in this world. Damn it. And I think if you within reason here as well, like not I don't mean like throw off the shackles and let the players run amok. No, there has to be some structure to this. But I think some amazing stuff comes out of the players like that. We're off to the wilderness, and you're like, okay, let me think. But I remember when I was DMing for games that weren't on the internet many years ago when I was in college. And actually, two of my players are in chat now, and they will attest to this. Eilish and Louise is a test to see if you're still here. We were playing a campaign. We were about 6 months into it, and the players had no choice but to go north, fleeing their enemies effectively. And we get up. They go through a horrible forest and woodlands and mountains, and it's all terrible, and they're exhausted, and they know where they have to go. I'm like, you have to go east. The thing you need to do is in the east. And like that, they went, we're gonna go west. We're gonna go that way, because you on this little map that you've drawn here, there's a little tower, and we want to know what's in that tower. And I was like, that was probably just a mountain that I forgot to draw into the rest of the map, but okay, here's a whole thing where we now have to go that way. And just trying to like, at the time I wasn't as confident, and it was that thing of, oh no, what do I do? And I remember drawing a blank, because it's like, oh man, I've set everything up, it's all done over there. And I think we just finished the session there, because I was like, I've got nothing for you, because I've got nothing prepared. Now I have, again, and people make the joke, if you listen to Romantic Legend, people make the joke, but Declan, you gave them the tools. And I was like, yes, but I don't give them any credit. I think they're all stupid. So in Romance of the Dungeon and Beyond Horizon's Edge, the players are doing things that I don't expect, and out of that, I'm now at a stage where I'm like, and let's just do it. That's going to be way more fun.
Here's something not to do when you haven't prepped. Put numbers on things. And I'm going to give an example in this episode. So you've just heard one of 7 tips we're going to give you in the next hour. Which is, tip 1, you can, if you reach the end of your notes, just end the session.
Yep.
You can just be like, all right, that's just done for the week. I need time to prep. And let the curtain fall down a little bit and say, we've reached the end of my notes so far. You've made some decisions that I need to now think about. And as is my right as a DM, I'm stopping now. So totally fine. Totally fine, I think, to just go, and then we're done. The other 6 we'll figure out.
Available over on behind this paywall. I agree with you. And I think it's that thing of, oh, well, the session has to be 4 hours long. The session has to, and I get it. I really do get it because, it's that thing of like, oh, our schedules and we want to get to meet up once or twice a month. So we have to do it all. I think a lot of people these days have a better understanding of it than they did, let's say, maybe 5-10 years ago. So I think people are more aware of the amount of work that goes into being a dungeon master and running games. There's so much work involved with being a player as well. I'm not saying that, but I think people kind of have this thing now of, oh, well, actually, yeah, it takes a lot to be a DM. I don't want to be the DM because you have to be able to do and you're like, yeah, you do, you have to, but you don't have to carry it all the time. Like I think that's the big thing.
I think we're not going to upset any players, and being one more so than a DM recently, when we say, when a player preps, it's almost self-elected. A DM has to prep. It's a mandatory part of the role in a way. And like when I say prep, it can be everything from what we were talking about there, like over prepping, planning everything out, like putting in the beats, having all the NPCs with all their stats and all their spells, all their accents and all their appearances. But on average, I think it's like for every hour of play, it's an hour of prep. And that will balance out. Sometimes combat can be something that doesn't take that long to prep, but does take long to play through. And I would actually think it's one of those things that as a DM, as I learnt and grew, I spent less time prepping roleplay because there was more opportunity to sort of improvise it and make it up, and more time prepping combat, and specifically prepping like little bridge sentences or like things I could say. I started reading books as part of my prep to be like, you feel your muscles tighten like a panther about to spring. The axe feels comfortable in your hand as you leap forward. Like things like that just became then natural ways for me, because combat, I'm not too well, I'm not a big fan of like 17 hits, 22, okay, bludgeoning or piercing, 42 hits, okay, 12 cold, all right, half, and it's just like,
yeah,
there's 2 things I do in combat, and we'll have an whole episode on combat. 1, it's those little bridge sentences, and 2, I can't remember where I learned this from, and it was definitely from someone online who does this far better than we do, which is describe what the player describe what the player who has just had a turn has done to the player who's about to have a turn. So it's that idea of, instead of like your muscles tense, it's like you see Arlington's muscles tense up like a panther about to spring, axe comfortable in his hand, and you see him leap forward. It was that, what do you do? And I found that very helpful as a way to keep combat moving slowly and surely and steadily, give people a bit of time to kind of plan their turns. Also is an important thing. I'm going to tie this back to prep, but how? I'm tying it back to prep because I had it there a second ago and I kept talking. The DM's curse.
There's nothing worse than when you are on a roll with it and it just, you're like, oh, I'm going to that next, but I have to finish this other thing I'm just saying, and it's gone.
We'll come back to it. The combat was tied into it somehow.
Again, we are going to have a whole episode on combat and stuff like that. Like we're going to have a couple of episodes on it. Tip number 2, don't panic. Like that's the, like, don't panic. Like if they go off and they do something else, don't panic. Like honestly, if you're live streaming, okay, it's a bit different. Like it's a bit different. And I think a lot of, let's just say offline games, or home games, if you want to call them that. I think a lot of DMs who play from home are under pressure, and we kind of already talked about this in Haggany Ant. They're under pressure to like perform a certain way, that it has to be like a certain thing, and it's not. Like if I run a game at home, my general rule of thumb is I aim for 2 to 3 hours. I will aim for that. And if people want to get up, people can get up. If people want to pop out, people can pop out. But we will kind of keep a flow in it. So in a home game, don't worry if it's gone left of field and you're like, I don't know what to do. Call a break. Call a 5, 10 minute, 15 minute break. Think about it, and like that, if you want, end it there, and if not, and you have it, great, come back. It's very different in a format where we are live on camera doing it, and the player's like, I'm gonna go off to do this thing. You're like, crap. And I am guilty of the well, you went big, I'll go bigger, and like ramp up the drama, and then at the end I'm like, I shouldn't have ramped up the drama. I spoiled things on myself.
Now when my NPCs made moves in anger, and they should have made them in simple sly plotting.
Oh,
my cards, I've shown them. Yeah.
All the time.
I did remember what it was. If you haven't prepped, throw combat in. Combat takes ages.
Tip number 3. Distract
them. Distract them with a random encounter. A wandering monster.
Yeah. No, I think when it comes to prepping, every DM, every player will find what works for them. And if you go in with lots of sheets and notes and things ready to go, and that works for you, wonderful. Like that's class. Like that might be the thing that doesn't work for Ben and I. Ben and I are probably more comfortable in that. Like, I've got a couple of beats, I've got a couple of characters, and I've got an idea and a prayer.
Which is learned behavior. Yeah. Like, I was definitely prep, cover all bases. I found it one of those things, like, I had to unlearn being ready for something. It was funny that, like, going in, it was more comfortable for me to spend 6 hours on a Sunday with a spreadsheet, with a Word doc, and be like, this happens. And you can look up, there's some, I don't know if all of them have it, but I'm almost certain if you type in, say, like, Brennan Lee Mulligan prep notes, Matt Mercer prep notes, Abri Iyengar prep notes, they have released some of their notes with, like, spoilers from their shows redacted or whatever, just to see how much they do. And, like, we're talking about shows that are way longer than the kind of 2-3 hour sessions. And it would be surprising, especially if you've, like, seen episodes. You're like, oh, that's that episode of Critical Role. That's all he wrote. Not to say that, like, don't do any prep, you know, but it's just nice when you're on a journey, or when you're in the part of the adventure where we're like, all right, we're in the kind of middle bit. You can take your foot off the pedal a little bit and give yourself a little bit of breathing room. And I find staggering your prep is good, at least for my, like, mental health, and not to arrive at the table being like, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this for you motherfuckers. You better be appreciative. And you better tell me how good I am at my job, or I'm going to go home and cry.
I said that to you one time in confidence, and I don't appreciate you doing that on stream.
We are both in that sense of, like, they better appreciate. I'm like, I just know if I was a stay-at-home parent, I would be the kind of, like, I've made you 3 souffles, and, like, I want mash. I'm like, you fucking kids. So I've learned less prep is actually better. I run better games when I'm not annoyed at my players, when I'm appreciating my time and effort and brilliance.
Yeah, I'm moving away from Ben's egomania. I am more of a, if I prep and I do that much prep and it doesn't go exactly as, and let's just call it what it is, scripted, because that's a script.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a, and D&D is not scripted. It's improv. It's, you can have stories and you can have notes and beats and stuff like that, but it's meant to be, let's see what happens at the table. Like even the modular adventures, they're very much like, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and see what happens. It's not this happens and then this has to happen. Ergo, they leave in those sort of like, it's like those choose your own adventure books when we used to read as kids. I I found that if I was writing those scripts, and I used to actually call them scripts, in my Word documents and in my folders and stuff like that, and it didn't go according to that. I mean, the guys, the players would always have fun. Like we would always talk about it afterwards. Everybody okay, everybody happy. Yeah, it was great crack. It was great crack. And everybody would leave, and then I am just overwhelmed with serious imposter syndrome. Like it's that thing of I didn't do a good job. Like they didn't do any of the things I had planned for, and they didn't engage with any of those characters. And they didn't do any of these things. And I mean, if you look at I'll just take the city of Tezrab, where Romance in Dungeons Season 1 kind of centers around. The amount of shops and NPCs that I have in that space that I know tons of things about that they didn't even go near. And I remember in those early days being like, but like they're not doing the thing that I want them to do. And I remember having a conversation with Sam, who plays Nate / Ivan / Nit Ivan. He was, we were talking about the writing side of it and that thing of like, you can have your story prepared and you can have your overarching, this is where it starts, this is where it ends. And how we get to that ending is, well, we'll figure that out, and then you can weave things in and out of it. And ever since that conversation, that's always been my aha. I know how this is ending. As in, I know what my big bad wants to do. I know what that moment is. How we get there, what happens between now and then, that's up to ye. And things will change. Like the end of season 2, I had plans. Plans did not go because I left some up to the audience. I left some up to the players. And then I said, fuck it, I'll figure the rest of it out afterwards. And it's like you said, Ben, that's learned behavior. Like that comes from, I mean, I'm at this 20 years. And that doesn't mean I'm good.
What? You started DMing at 1?
You almost recovered. But yeah.
If you didn't catch it, that was tip number 4, which is throw it back on your players. There's a thing I'm going to try in the next adventure for Homebrew that I'm going to run at some point in time, which is not prep a story, prep a world and a theme. This is what the world is. This is what it does. This is the general theme and area of topics we're going to explore. I know it could be like, this won't be it. I mean, maybe it will be it. But it could be something like, what happens when... Actually, a good example of this from a book would be the very first Mistborn from Sanderson. Is like, what happens when the villain wins and becomes the leader, and then
I think Ben's internet crapped out again. Yep, I think Ben started talking about an IP that we don't have rights to, so then the internet went, no internet for you. Yeah, Wayne, sorry, I just decided to put you completely on the spot, and now that I've lost Ben, you've got to carry this for me. I prep an intro. Oh, Ben's back. He's back.
Oh, good. I never lost you, which is amazing. I heard everything.
Oh, no.
I heard you trying to talk to Wayne from Sorcery and Shenanigans and saying how much you'd rather him be in the show. Which I find bizarre.
Is a lovely...
Yeah. I was saying that the theme for Mistborn is, what if the villain wins and then just sets up like a dictatorship? So that was the kind of like playing in a theme. So to point number 4, which is I gone again? No,
No,
I'm
no,
good.
you're still there. I
Cool,
think
cool, cool,
everyone's just
cool.
making fun of you. I think everyone's just making fun of you. Sorry.
Fair, fair for fair, fair. um, Tip number 4: throw it back in your players. You know your world, and if you've been running a game long enough, you'll have enough in the back of your head. Just be like, what do you guys want to do? You've got a day to yourselves. Like the big bad's planning. What's the you're in the city. Where are you going? And then use it as an opportunity to practice your improv. Practice your doing stuff on the fly.
Big time. Like honestly, there's nothing more fun than like almost handing that session over to the player to be like, it's your moment, it's your time to figure out what your character wants to do, and it brings them like it brings them way more into that world and into that session than anything that again that you would prep for. Like, so if they say, I will actually, looking at this map, I see that there's this, or actually my sword got damaged in the last combat that we had with that random encounter we just did that. You ran so well. You're like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I just planned that. But that thing then of, well, I want to go to a blacksmith. I need to get this sword repaired or replaced. I need to find a new weapon. And then coming up with those characters, coming up with that engagement, coming up with those fun little, like that's how you get really memorable NPCs. That's also how you come up with really stupid names on the fly, like Bobo, the guy that fixes bows.
I've been spelling it B-O-B-O.
Yeah, it
Am I
is.
wrong?
No, that's correct.
Okay, good,
Yeah,
good, good.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's Bobo,
yeah.
the bow guy.
Oh, I'm thinking of Bow Bow.
His arch rival.
The guy who repairs ships.
Oh,
We are 4 tips into our 7 tips on what to do when you're not prepping. I'm wondering if this is a good opportunity to dip into our interview with It's a Map. And although we don't cover this during the interview, this ties into combat. This ties into just throwing your players into a situation or just bringing in a new location for them to explore, which will then eat up some time when you're planning what happens next. And listening to your players, what they interact with, what they like, what they're doing to inform your next step. You don't need to prep ahead. You just need to be one chapter ahead of the kids. So with that in mind, please enjoy this wonderful interview we did with It's a Map. Hello, and a very special On A Roll welcome to Kayt, who you might know better as It's a Map on Instagram, TikTok, across all the usual social channels. Is that right, Kayt?
Most of them, I think, yeah.
Yeah, the ones that matter.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We're here to talk about, unsurprising to people, maps, map making, cartography, fantasy cartography, whether that's on the scale of a continent or right down to the narrow little valley you stupidly walked into, realizing it's a perfect place for an ambush. So, without further ado here, could you tell us, for the people watching along and maybe watching along in the VODs, a little bit about your TTRPG map making journey? How you got into it, how long you've been making maps, and where people might be able to find you to commission maps for their games?
Yeah. Well, I've been playing D&D myself for about 16 years, and then COVID came. So everybody went online. And I think it was a friend of mine who mentioned he had come across this program that he thought I might enjoy, called Incarnate. And I used his account for maybe a week or two, and then I was like, no, I love this. I need this for myself. So straight away I was kind of like hooked into it. Just because I've always loved D&D, and I always loved, like, I'm a very visual person. I need maps really for I'm not very good at theater of the mind type stuff. So yeah, so I just got into it through that. Started off with very simple buildings, not a lot of detail. But then I guess nice to go back and look at those maps now and see the things I would want to change so much. But
Yeah, of course.
it's just a process. Like you said, you're always learning when you're doing it.
100%. I look at I'd be opposite to you in that I don't mind theater of the mind, but I do love world maps, town maps, any of those kind of what feel like physical props that my player would have. Like you go into a town, it's like, can I get a map of the town? And I often draw them out myself and try to kind of figure out neat ways, or to be honest, sometimes just go straight onto Google Maps and like trace a town I know well enough. So like in Homebrew,
Yeah.
one of the towns the party visited was literally just Dingle, like, but printed and made fantasy. So at least when I was saying like, okay, you take a left here, there's a little bridge, I could picture it in my mind.
Yeah.
But what about you? How do you go about making maps, or do you have a certain process? Is it different every time?
It kind of depends on what I'm making it for. So if it's like a commission map, then obviously I would have it back and forth with whoever needs whatever they need. But when it's myself, just for the crack, or for like we are starting a Patreon in the Emerald Collective, so I'm
Mm.
kind of banking maps as I go. And sometimes it can be just as simple as scrolling through the assets and seeing, oh, that looks like a cool, I don't know, scary face. What could I do with that? Or that's a hand. Oh, what could be in the hand? It's just seeing what's there can sometimes, you know, inspire something in you. Or sometimes I do literally dream maps. I'm
Wow.
like, okay, maybe that would be a cool map to try and put into some sort of reality. I think just because I do, it's like I'm at it every day because I love it, and it's just something I really enjoy. I think when you're doing something that much, it is in your mind all the time. You go, oh, I did that map, but I wonder if I could do, like, sometimes there's a path that's leading off the map, and it's like, oh, where does that lead to now? Where could I, what kind of creepy thing could I have on the other end of this map? Things like that. Yeah, it's just about, I like I like I like just putting things down, especially if they're going to be used in a game, putting things down so that people will go, oh, what's that over there, or what's that block doing there, or just random little items. I think as well, it's great for adding to the stories.
I think you bring up a really important point there, where it's like maps, and especially battle maps are often, I'd say players are often guilty of ignoring parts of it, just kind of thinking, okay, it's a grid, but it's sort of a nicely decorated grid. And it's like the lovely thing about TTRPG map making is you can give resources to the players, you can leave clues for the DM, it's a living, breathing space. And
Mm.
I would encourage anyone who does play with maps to like check things out, like do inspect things. You don't always need a high perception to use your own eyes and go, well, hang on a second, that looks like a little brazier in the corner, and it looks like it's flimsily held together by a chain rope, but I reckon I could kind of knock that over. But before we get into hidden elements, because we will chat about that a little bit later, do you have any tips for anyone watching along, or handy tricks that you might use when using Incarnate?
Well, the Incarnate has actually just recently released a thing that is life changing when it comes to making maps, for making buildings, for making like cliffs and stuff. It used to be section by section, stamp by stamp, but now you can literally draw a line. It can be straight, it can be curved, and then you can pick what kind of wall it is, what kind of cliff it is, what kind of, it's made it a lot easier, I think, and a lot more accessible, because it doesn't take so much time to build a building, or it's not millions and millions of stamps. It's just pull it across, and then you can actually put little gaps into it for doors and windows, and just makes it a lot less time consuming. That if you go, I don't like that door there, I want to move it, you don't have to go looking for a stamp. You can just move the thing. So that's been really helpful. And I think as well, Incarnate themselves, they do a lot of video. Like, I think they do a video every month or two on YouTube, just to kind of give you tricks to make your map to look more real, remembering to put in shadows and wear and tear on the floor, which that was something I was very guilty of in the beginning. Everything was too clean and too neat, and nobody's house looks like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, putting in like a little bit of wear and tear on the floor or things like that, it really brings a kind of sense of realism to the maps, I think, and it helps the immersion aspect of it.
As someone who, when I DM, I don't bring like the props I bring or the things I bring to the table, the prep I would do. It's usually long term, and something that has stopped me from, because I love drawing, I love making maps, and I love creating spaces. But something that stopped me has been the time consumption of it. But it's great to hear there that the tools are now in place, that you have something in your mind, draw it out, quickly whip it up. It's enough of a visual aid for your players to get a sense of where they are. And I suppose for a DM, you have to balance the time you spend making a map versus the time that's spent at the table where players are like, okay, so what's here? Where's that? Okay, remind me again where I am. Okay, so where are we in the order? So like,
Yeah,
you are saving time potentially by
yeah.
doing a little bit of prep in advance. Um,
Because another
speaking,
good program is, sorry for cutting across you
oh
there.
no, no, no.
Dungeon Alchemist is great for that. It's another program because you can literally go make me a tavern, press a button, and it will populate the tavern with chairs, with bars, with whatever. And then you literally can move things around if they don't sit right or whatever. But it uses like a program that builds whatever it is you're looking for, from creepy cemeteries to pubs and things like that. So if you were looking for a very quick map that you just want to have done for you, basically, it's much quicker.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I
good to
still
know.
prefer Incarnate because it's got a bit more, I don't know, stuff. It's the
Yeah.
only word I can think of.
I think I'd be the same as you as well, because I sometimes find um in the process creativity exists in the way. So like you're familiar with the space, the time you spend in something, and literally building a world or building a map allows you, especially if you're kind of doing it for a game you're running, to those little clues, like, no, I know where that is because I spent time on it, versus like, whereas you'd almost be looking yourself if you're not familiar with the world you're building. So I wonder if you could share with us, um it might be a little bit of an off-topic question, but when you're sitting down, when you are creating your maps, do you have a working playlist? What do you like to listen to, if you listen to anything? Or do you have a ritual before you begin, where it's, I gotta get my cup of tea, I gotta get my biscuits ready, and here we go, map time? Talk us through a
Eh,
moment in making maps.
I mean, it kind of depends on the day. If it's the one that I'm not really looking forward to making, then it's usually like I'll just put something on my iPad, some inane program that I would not normally watch, and it not even really watch it, but just to have the background noise kind of helps. And but if it's something I'm excited about doing, like I will usually have some cheesy goth rock on. I love that real cheesy, like
Yeah,
get big guitars and deep man voices, or a bit of metal, but yeah, not really too loud because the dog wouldn't be a huge
of
fan.
course.
But yeah, or else sometimes she's accompanying me here on the desk and helps by walking across. Um, but yeah, yeah, I would always have to get my drinks and my like a snack so that I'm not going right. I just want to sit down and do this. Because you can get a bit distracted
Mm,
and you're like, I don't know, put nearly, I don't mean too much time, but you can spend too much time, more time than
yeah.
you need, more time than is going to be appreciated. So yeah, so that would really be my process, just kind of, okay, let's go. Let's, you know, do the
Yeah,
thing.
I think it's nice to have one, because, as you say, it helps keep you focused on a task that you can easily lose yourself in. I think it's either the Pixar studios or a studio like that who had a phrase, polishing the penny, which is just, you're spending weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks just getting something perfect without thinking, let's take a step back. Is this
Yeah.
as
Is this
necessary?
tiny? Zoom,
Yeah.
zoom back out, you know? Yeah, yeah, I can be kind of guilty of that, and especially if it's for a commission, because I'm always like, am I doing enough? Is this what the person? Because you're aware that you're trying to fulfill somebody else's brain
Mm,
picture. So I will always kind of go, I spend a bit more time going in and out and just trying to, make sure that I'm getting everything down in the hopes that I'm getting it the right way. So
mm.
thankfully I usually do. So yeah.
That actually brings up something we touched on a little bit earlier. And one thing I love about your maps is the level of detail. So please never stop getting lost in the weeds. But is there, do you have a favorite player moment, or kind of, your maps are used a lot in the Emerald Collective streams. And because it's rich with detail, something that a player has noticed and interacted with, or um, something you put, maybe it doesn't have to be kind of hidden, but like a detail you paid attention to that then led to this wonderful in-game moment. Has there been any kind of stories from the table like that?
Yeah, there has been one. There's a creature. There's a character even in one of the games Run Saga called Scales, who is a very young dragonborn who is just amazed by everything. And there was a map I did probably about 18 months ago. It was the entrance to a mine. I was literally just looking for stuff that looks kind of industrial. and there was this block with a chain coming out of it, and I was like, that looks like it fits. So I just put it in the map, kind of not thinking about it, and scales first thing. It was like, oh, what's this? What's this? So it has become now a thing. It's called the plug.
Mm.
So I sneak it into maps, or sometimes they will ask me to put it into maps to see if it's noticed. So it has kind of become a thing that it's been, repeated over time. Nobody knows what it is or where it goes. I don't know what it is or where it goes. But it was just something that was picked up on by that player. Or even like there was a tree one time and it looked like it might be lemons, but she wasn't sure. So it was like, okay, these are not lemons. And then ate them, and it was a whole like, what's a not lemon? What's this gonna do to me? And I think it caused some effect on her or something. But yeah, just little like at the minute in Encounter, they've really added to the clutter aspect, and they have they've done some Eastern stuff, so they have these beautiful little origami cranes, which I love, hiding everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I did a map in a sewer that's supposed to be like Thieves Guild type map, and on the bar, at the end of the bar, I was really sad. Nobody noticed, but there was about 5 of them in a row. I was like, that would have been a really
Mm.
kind of, you kind of want somebody to go and interact with it, to go, oh, I
Yeah.
wonder what the GM will do with this, where they'll go.
But that's it. It's the wonderful part of giving, it doesn't have to be maps in a TTRPG game, but often it is giving players breadcrumbs or little resources or just places for them to launch and springboard off in their games, which I love. And
Yeah.
is there so origami cranes and the plug, are there any other signature elements that we could look out for in an It's a Map creation?
Well, if there's a building, there will always be a toilet. Because I live with Crohn's disease myself, so unfortunately toilets are quite important.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what kind of building I am making, there will be a loo somewhere. Which has been mentioned to me when I was down at AdventureCon. A couple of people came up to me and said it to me, and I was like, oh, because they had Crohn's as well, and they were aware of the thing. So that is
Yeah.
one thing that you would definitely notice. And I think maybe just the amount of clutter in my maps, perhaps. But yeah, I would hope, but I wouldn't know if I have a style really. I just go where my brain goes, really.
Yeah, no, it's nice, and as you say, it's lovely looking back on maps, and it's like it is a never-ending journey of creation. I'm sure in 5 years from now you'll look back on maps today and be like, oh, that's where
Yeah.
I was.
And it's nice when that happens, because like even sometimes I'll see a map on stream and I go, oh, I wonder who made that. And afterwards I go, oh, that was yours. Because my memory is shot. I go, did I make that? Really? I don't remember making that. And you kind of get that little, oh, go me,
Yeah,
proud.
that's really really nice. I suppose it's this might be an unfair question. Do you have a favorite map that you've ever made?
I do. At the minute, I have a favorite that's actually my desktop background. It's for the Arcanist district in Artex in the Saffron Saga, and I don't use the isometric stuff
Mm.
very often. I find it kind of hard to get my head around, but I spent some time and did it, and I can kind of imagine walking around it now. It just looks so pretty, and there's loads of lovely things there, and it just kind of, yeah, that's my favorite at the minute. So that's my background as we speak.
It's a trait we both share. Viewers of the show will remember from a couple of episodes ago, but God, who knows how long ago. But I tried to do a hand-drawn isometric kind of style, and I'm not good at it. I just can't.
It's
I
hard.
I understand the theory. I think I'm like I get it, but like, and I suppose grids are really useful for that because you can just follow the lines, but they just end up when I see a beautiful one. It's almost like they know how to draw within the lines, but then also know when to break the line, and that's something my brain just hasn't twigged for me yet.
Yeah.
Um, but it leads me to my one of my closing questions for you today, and I'm sure we'll have you back on to talk about maps and everything else under the sun in future episodes as well. But what do you think makes a good TTRPG map maker?
I think somebody who is a bit silly, maybe, to be honest.
Hmm.
Who I don't know, who just enjoys the crack of playing TTRPGs, that understands like I know obviously there's different worlds and stuff, but the general idea of what D&D should be. And yes, there's serious things happening in these worlds and there's massive catastrophes, but there's also silliness and like origami cranes and there's there's silliness that can be got. And I think the best games I've ever played are where we've laughed for most of the game just because of the silliness. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind when you're making maps, even if it's it's going to be for a big serious battle or whatever. I always like to try and just put something in that kind of, even if nobody else notices and maybe somebody watching at home goes, why is that there? Just yeah, I think you have to, well, I think as well you have to be somebody who enjoys playing TTRPGs. Otherwise, I don't think you would enjoy it. I haven't made maps for Warhammer. I've never actually played it myself, but I get the general gist of it. But yeah, I think it has to be something you're interested in. And like from myself as a child, I would love making maps. I would make treasure maps for my brother and color them with old tea bags and all that kind of stuff. So it's always been something I've enjoyed. So I've been really happy that in the last 3 or 4 years, I think it's 3 years that I've gotten to do it again.
Yeah, it's something aside from all the negative stuff I'd have to put up with if this was true, but it's something I lament that I wasn't born in an era that cartography would be, a viable career in a way.
Yeah,
That
I
it's like
know.
out I pop and let's go draw some maps. Because I'd be similar as a kid, making treasure maps, making trails, making it's just something I find fascinating. It used to be before I knew what the term fantasy genre was, I knew if the book had a map in the front,
Yeah,
I'd enjoy it.
yeah,
And
yeah, exactly. There's just something
yeah.
about it because you can kind of, when you have a map of something, even like we have here, like the Goonies map,
Mm,
like framed and stuff. I think it's because you're able to, like you were saying earlier, you can put yourself there, and then you're
yeah.
walking this way, and then you're walking that way. So it's a good way to kind of immerse yourself in it. And I think when you're a kid, like anything like that just sends your imagination going. So I think that's why, like, a lot more people than I realized did it, like, as well. Um, so yeah, so I think it's just to not lose the enjoyment of it.
Mm. It's something and this is sort of a little bit outside of tabletop games, but it's something I realized about myself that I don't do well in real life places that are quite flat. If I don't have a sense of perspective, like something in the very far distance, something in the middle foreground, something near me, it's why I live in quite a mountainous town. I just don't know how to. I'm like, where I have no sense of direction then. And it might be I'm making a tenuous link between my love of maps and my real world brain that goes, where am I? But I think
Where
it's a
have I
nice
been
thing about
sent?
yeah, like it's a nice thing about Ireland that you can often just find yourself on a hill and be like, oh, I can see the town. Oh, I can see the city beyond that. Oh, I can see somewhere even further and beyond that. And
You're
it's a
never
great
too
skill.
far away from somewhere.
This is it. Being able to see somewhere on a map and then walk there and be like, oh, I made it there. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Then your
well,
brain is able to like
this
put
is
it in
it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm often the leader on friend holidays, which is like everyone else is head down on their phones or not paying attention. It's like Ben knows where he's going. He
This is
seems to have a good
fun.
sense. Yeah, it's like and then
Do you
often
have
I'll
a little flag and all that you?
oh I wish no I've and to be honest and we should cut back to the studio, but I'm having too much fun. Um, I have taken sharp turns at points and then realized 5 minutes down the road, oh, I've left everyone else somewhere behind. They've continued on. So if you have a map follower in your party group, roll high in your perception. Don't
Yes.
make it the rogue, I suppose,
Don't
is the
lose them. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and chatting about maps. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Could you actually remind us where the audience can find you if they do want commissions or anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, if you want to hit me up or want to have a look at some of my stuff, if you look at It's a Map IRE on Instagram, you'll see all my maps. TikTok, there's stuff on there, but I don't really get TikTok. And Twitter, because I refuse to call it the other name. I'm on there as well. And yeah, just hit me up on any of those places. You will see my maps being used, as Ben already said, on the Emerald Collective. A good few of the games there, and we're actually starting a Patreon come May 1st. So there will be maps included in that as well. As well as monsters and items, which is exciting. We're all very excited about the start of it.
Yes.
So I've been really hunched over here making maps for for a while, but so really excited about that coming out, and to be part of it has been really nice.
Great. Well, we'll cut back to you guys in the studio.
Hi, we're Horde of Tales. We're an EU-based actual play Twitch channel. We have a long-form D&D campaign.
You may note us as
One,
two,
two,
three.
three.
The plane
Plane
jumpers.
diver. No.
Divers?
How did we mess this up?
And we're the new home of the EU Happy Hour.
Look, I placed them down where I thought they would be. I didn't say it was right.
We often have short-term flights that you can be a part of.
I have never heard or read a Regency era love letter that sounded more like a booty call than that.
It's open to interpretation.
Come add to our collection at twitch.tv/Horde of Tales.
Howdy folks, welcome to the latest episode of Social Shenanigans.
You haven't seen any cows, have you?
Once.
Going to cast I'm sorry in advance. I'm going to cast heat metal on the horse's bit.
Oh.
Believed to be Sharp. Sharp kind of pulls herself back and she's like, well, it looks like we have ourselves a game.
Ben, have you heard about the new show, Ben and Declan On A Roll?
No, what's it about?
It's a brand new show, apparently. I need to update that real soon.
I think it's a new show every week.
Oh, yeah. It's a new show.
And by that, I mean
every 2
weeks.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that's what we say around these parts when we mean every 2 weeks. It's every week.
Yes.
Not to confuse people around that. Yeah.
If you watch the show and then immediately keep watching the show, it's a new show every day.
Yeah. And I suppose you could watch the show on Twitch and it's new live. And then you could watch the VOD next week. And then it's new over on YouTube.
Yeah. And then it's new on the social channels when we tell you about it. We're definitely going to clip things. And then it's new. It's new to me because I'm forgetful. Anyway, new show called Ben and Declan. And if that didn't convince you to watch it, then I don't know what will.
We need a budget. That was so much fun to actually get to watch. I always love seeing a creator kind of go through the process and kind of what they do and why they do it and stuff like that. Like in Kayt's maps that we got to see on screen, and I've seen their work over on Twitter and on the Emerald Collective Twitch stream as well, and it's just so detailed and so intricate, and some are like neat and compact, and and then others are this expansive sort of like, how do you have the time to do all that? I don't know.
I find maps really nice as props in a no prep session to be like, hey players, here's your little map, and especially that beautiful city map that Kayt has made. It's just like, where do you want to go? I remember playing on a wonderful stream with Mark, who's part of the Emerald Collective, and like the game started with just a map. It was like, pick where you want to go. So like, Mark never knew where we as players were going to go every week. Just that he had every area sort of prepped out in his mind. And the good news is, you can obviously go make your own maps if you want. But if you didn't want to, Emerald Collective have just, as of yesterday, launched a Patreon. You can head over there. There is a free tier. You can sign up. You'll get some free goodies. I think you get a free joining goodie, and then like as things go out, you get free goodies. But then there's also like very reasonable tiers beyond that, including like a promotional tier, which is you get shout outs on their stream. So like, I'm pretty sure Nike are being like, that's free money, baby. But if you are, like, why not paying a little shout out and promote the things you're working on?
It's a win-win. It works.
It's a win-win.
We're talking about prepping for your games. And we're specifically talking about not prepping. And what you can do in a scenario where the game has kind of maybe gone off the rails a little bit, or hell, you know what, actually, the game doesn't have to go off the rails. Your life could have just been busy that day or that week.
Yeah.
And work, college, family, health, whatever it is. And you don't want to cancel a session. You still have time to play, but you don't actually have the hours in the day to sit down and write story beats, come up with a new NPC, build that monster out, whatever it might be. So what can you do in those? And Ben and I have been sharing tips from our experiences. We've gone through the first 4.
We have 7 foolproof tips on what to do when you haven't prepped your session. I'll give you a rundown on the first 4. 1, end the session. Just like, not today. That works if you're mid-session. Obviously, if they arrive to your house, snacks in hand, and you're like, yeah, let's end it there. We haven't even started.
Thanks for the snacks.
2, get out of here, losers. Slam your door. 2, don't panic. It's just a great tip in general, great tip in life. Just don't panic. See what happens. Roll with it. Number 3, throw combat at them. Combat takes ages. So if you need to slow the game down to give yourself time to think, throw some combat at them. And then number 4, throw it back on the players. As the DM, you know a lot of what's happening, but you don't know what the players are going to do next, so it's hard to prep for. So 4, just be like, here's the situation. What do you want to do? And just let them argue amongst themselves. Throw some scraps between them. Say there's a level on offer. They'll fight for hours.
Wow, I am just getting called out here left, right, and center. I did that several times in one campaign, okay? Those tips might seem like that doesn't work. It does. That all those things work in a big way. And
or your money back, baby. Just send all complaints to Emerald Collective.
But we've 3 left to go, and I think one of my prep tips is if you find yourself in that thing of like I don't really know what to do here, like with the way the situation's playing out, or the way the bad guy is involved, or the way the bad guy's not involved. How do I bring it back in? Take inspiration. Take inspiration from that TV show you watched, that book you read, that movie you went to, that comic book, that novel, whatever it was. Your idea, your idea has been done. That's all these stories. We've talked about this already, about where stories come from, and the good versus evil. It's been done. Heroes falling in combat. It's been done, but it's not been done your way. So look to those TV shows, cartoons, movies, whatever it is, and take a little bit of inspiration there. I'm not saying, yank the entire episode from Star Trek where Tasha Yar sacrifices herself to save Deanna Troi. and you are emotionally scarred, and you then put all that energy into a whole campaign around. No, I mean, take those little things that you're like, oh, I see how they did it, and make it work for you. Like it's been done, but you haven't done it, so do it your own way.
Yeah, there's a whole episode from on Homebrew in campaign 1 where I just took the lyrics to the song Finnegan's Wake, the trance song, made a session out of that. One of the characters was downed in combat, and it was in sort of our version of the underworld. And to pad out, I don't even know if I needed to pad it out. I don't even know if I wasn't prepped. I think I just wanted to do it. But it did mean that the prep I'd done previously, I was just like, I'll save that for another day. I want to do this. I want to throw that prep out for now and come to the game and just play through Finnegan's Wake. And I knew the character I was doing it for was also a huge Irish trad music fan and appreciated the kind of references in the song and the little nods we were doing. And it was different. It was totally different. But the rest of the players didn't know the lyrics all that well. So it was fun for them who weren't, all that active at the table to be like, I can't wait for this moment to happen. So they became a bit more of an active participant because of that. So yeah, take inspiration.
I'm a big believer in when it comes to, we want to make sure everybody at the table is included and having fun. And it's that thing of, as the scene's unfolding in front of you and the players are engaging with an NPC or each other, actually take a minute to sit back as the DM and just watch that and listen. Like that's like a little bonus tip. Listen to what they're talking about. And the other thing I would suggest, if you're not if you don't have the time to prep a full session, message the players and ask them what they want to do. It's kind of like tip number 4 in that put it on them, but ask them, like, hey, look, last time around we went into the cave and you grabbed the loot and you've returned it. What are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking now? Like, what's your, like, what's the group's goal, or what's your individual goal? Like you haven't actually handed the loot over to the guy who hired you, and we've seen inklings of your character wanting to, and let them, if not at the session, then to help you prepare something, let them pepper you with a few ideas of, actually, I'm thinking I might steal some from it. I think I might, is that a moment that we could do? And like, yeah, we can 100% do that at the table. Let's try that. Let's see what happens. So get your players, your group involved in your prep as well. Like, I'm not saying sit down there and write everything for me. I'm done. As you eat the snacks. But that thing of ask them, like, that's all DMs do these days. We just have snacks.
Yeah.
But I think
I 99% agree with you. My one caveat on that is, if your DM on the off chance is Declan Duty, tell him nothing. He will take what you tell him and twist it into your heart with a dagger made of obsidian. He'll be like, I'd love to go have a lovely time with my friends. A horrible time with your friends, you say? So, in any other situation, absolutely, give them ammunition. In this one particular situation, you might find yourself in, be cautious.
Have you seen this?
And it doesn't work if you switch it around. If you're not like, I want to have a horrible time, it's not like he switches it around.
I make it worse.
Yeah. The worstest time.
Ben and I are having a joke and having a laugh. I do that, but always with the player's consent. Just to put that out there.
No, absolutely. There is a situation in which you might have prepped, but something has happened, and you need to throw your plans out and do something else. And that is, what if most of your table are there, but someone can't make it, and you don't want to go forward with the prep you have done, so now you're scrambling last minute to do something else. And we were doing a little bit of mid-break prep, which is another thing you can do, and came to the conclusion that doing a character flashback, so taking the characters who are there and then fleshing out their backstory or the missions they've been on before the adventure, is a nice way to kind of let them still play the game, learn some things about the world. And you might think, but if we got all that information way back then, wouldn't we have thought of to use it now? It's I forget things all the time.
Yep.
It's just weave it in, and it's kind of like it's thinking of that story as you sit around the campfire that makes you realize the solution to the problem we're having now. If you've watched any episode of House or any Sherlock Holmes or anything that follows that formula, they don't figure it out until exactly when they need to, about 5 minutes before that 40-minute episode is up. So use a campfire and get them to tell stories about their backstory, about them, characters, and do a flashback and dive in. Do a little bit of like riff, and then take the scene and go, we move now to a seaside town, and then take one of theirs and roll with it.
I 100% agree with Ben there. Actually, 101% agree with Ben.
Yes.
But I'm
it's because it was your idea. You said it to me over the break, and I was like, brilliant. That'll give me something to talk about.
But so with Beyond Horizon's Edge, we came back after the Christmas break, and it just so happened that for the first few sessions, one or two players weren't available to play, and we were like, everybody kind of else wants to play, but this is a live stream. What do we do? And I was like, don't worry about it. We're gonna go in, and we're gonna do some backstory stuff. We're going to go into the background. We're going to talk about adventures that happened when you all first signed up to this guild and you all were fledgling adventurers. And we're going to explore those stories as little one-shots for fun and to kind of flavor in and pepper in some stuff. And even then, I was able to kind of go take things that have happened in the main campaign and bring them back a little bit earlier to go, see, this is actually a thing that was actually happening way back then, but you the player probably don't know this, but the character will, and you can, again, it's that lovely little way of adding a little few details, and it doesn't even have to be take a tip from Dallas. It can all be a dream. Like dream episodes are a load of fun. A Trixie Faye is like, you know what? I'm going to bother these guys. One of them, it didn't work on them because the Fae magic didn't work on them for whatever reason. But the others, now you're in a dream world. And it's a little bit like what you know, but it's a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more chaotic. So that sort of flashback, flash forward, whatever way you delve into it. It can be a real fun way to just do something extra. Like if you don't have a full table and the guys don't want to progress the story, or you don't want to progress the story, but you don't want to cancel the session, go back and go into the backstories and play those things, and see where you're at.
Which brings us to number seven. Seven.
I mean, your
brings
hand
us
was
to tip
slightly
number
off
7.
camera, so it did look like you had 10 up.
Brings us to number 7. Our 7 tips for unprepping when you're prepping as a DM, which is useful if you have a full table, useful if you don't have a full table, useful if life has gotten in the way, and useful in all situations, which is if you're comfortable with it, you don't have to DM that session. There's probably someone at the table who wants to try out a new system or has a story they want to DM or a one-shot. Move the screen around. Let them run a game. You don't miss out on any fun with your friends. Sure, the story doesn't progress, but we're talking about situations where you've decided not to progress the story for one reason or the other, or you need more time to prep. And it can be fun ways to, as a DM, step into the player seat, see how other people act, see how they act with themselves, and then know then what to throw in front of them later. So giving yourself a little opportunity to be on that side of the table to inspire what you do next.
And for the DMs out there that have control issues who shall remain anonymous, don't do that because that won't help you at all. No, I'm rarely a player and nearly always the DM, and I would take Ben's advice, and what I would do is I'd go, guys, I'm not actually going to run the main campaign today, but I have this stupid little thing about kobolds in a trench coat. or bears and a honeypot. Can we park the campaign? Because I don't have the headspace to. I haven't figured it out. I haven't figured out what we're doing next. But I really want to play this. I really want to have a go at doing this and figuring those bits and pieces out. Like, I did for the Irish Cancer Society Heroes from Home campaign this year. I ran My Monster and Me as a little adventure set in the world of Romancing the Dungeon, and it's canon. And I was like, oh crap! I've said things in that adventure that like I hadn't established. Shit. Damn it! Oh well, now it's canon, and it's fine. Yeah. Taking those other things, and I'm not saying I mean, what would the Witch is Dead or Sexy Battle Wizards look like in your world? Like, what is a sexy battle wizard in the world of Homebrew Quest? And let the players figure that out for a session. That doesn't have to be canon. It can just be a silly, fun little romp, or you even take their characters. And you make their characters, cats, and you play lasers and felines for a session. So what does your character? What kind of cat is your character for this? And let's figure that out, and let's play something silly and just enjoy it. That I don't have to over prep and stress myself out with, and ye don't feel like, well, I'm not to do for 3 hours. I could have gone to the cinema. I could have done something else. Oh, we're still gonna play a game. Great, let's try that. So instead, yeah, excellent.
And in most instances, we're very nice. In some instances, we all turn around as a table and say, no, that gives the bad guys more time to prep. We've got them on the back ropes. Let's go get them. Well, they're on the ropes.
There's one more bad guy.
No! There's always one more bad guy.
We said there's 7 tips. We actually have a bonus tip. Bonus tips, I believe. Ben has
bonus tips each.
And I have a bonus tip each. As if there was multiple of me. Who knows? Maybe, oh god, that's frightening. My bonus tip, and it might seem silly, but especially when it comes to kind of prep, name your sessions. Like, actually name the session. Like, it can be maybe you work better with numbers, and you're like, this is session 1 or episode 1 or chapter 1 or act 1 or whatever you want to call it. I name every episode of Romancing the Dungeon. I always ask the players for like, hey, like, this is what happened. What are we going to call it? And they're all they're all numerical, but I can recall details of like one special adventure one shots that we ran, like Couples Retreat or the Hen Nights or the Roz Greypurse After School special. Like there are things in those that I'm like, I know the beats of those stories. And not because you're the DM and they happened in the past. Yeah, some of the, like Couples Retreat happened like 3 years ago. And because I've named the episodes, I don't know what it is. It just helps me memorize them. And I name the chapters for Beyond Horizon's Edge. And all those names, it's like, it's like, if someone says, Snorlax to you from Pokemon, and you're like, immediately you know what it looks like, and you also kind of know its type, and you know that it sleeps a lot, and you're naming them helps me. Whereas if everyone goes, do you know that what happened like a month ago? I don't know. Whereas if somebody said, in this episode of this chapter, then it comes right back. I would love to do I see Twiggy B 111s there. Need a Couples Retreat. Where are they now? Episode. I would actually love to do another Couples Retreat. I have an idea for what would happen for a Couples Retreat set in the village of Littlehorn during Nice Fest.
That's nice.
Anyway, yeah, that's me. That's my bonus tip. Name your episodes. Name your sessions.
My bonus tip is a not tip. This is a maybe don't do this. It feels like a good idea. It seems like the right thing to do. I've fallen into this trap before, and it is just sending the party on a random fetch quest. It's like, fuck, I don't know what to do. It's like, you're missing the gem that goes in the hilt of the sword you've been after. Go get that. And it just begins to feel a little bit like, okay, but if we didn't get that and you were ready, would have been fine. Or like even worse, where it's just like you're missing the hat that goes with the sword, and then you're adding things for later prep that you have to kind of make sense of. You're like, why did we get this? And you can end up with a sort of Indiana Jones adventure where it's like, if we did nothing, we would have been better off. Now, I don't like giving don't do this without giving an alternative.
I don't know if Ben's frozen for everybody else, but I'm on suspense here right now. Don't do this, but do. There it is. He's back.
Cliffhangers. Oh, no. It's nice that I don't lose you, so I can make a joke when I come back. But I was going to say, do NPC quests. So like things that are tied around an NPC's wants and needs, which is like, it's different to a fetch quest because it's not get this thing and bring it back. It's like, while you're here, would you mind? I need some help at doing XYZ. And then at least the consequence of it is quite small, so you don't need to worry about canon and stuff. But the impact on the players and their relationship with the world you're building and the people in it grows.
That's again big believer in letting the players, and that's a nice way of letting them, like, it doesn't have to. Maybe there's an NPC that they've met that they let's go back to them. Let's figure that out. Let's check in with that NPC and see how they're doing. It's always really rewarding as a DM when you see the players engage with the world that you've put them in, whether it's homebrewed or established, modular, whatever it might be. And that's another thing, just as a kind of a bonus tip. Look to the module adventures and look to the likes of Drive-Thru RPG for those sort of one-shots that you're like, oh, we're on kind of downtime. The campaign's not over, but we're not actually doing anything at the moment. Is there anything that I can take there that can fit, that can be run in a session or two, that isn't going to have any major consequence, that I can just pepper in and have something? If you're not going to take it from a TV show, maybe there's a writer out there that's created something, and for like $2 or $5 you can support them, and you get a one shot that you can run as part of your campaign. So look to those resources as well. We are almost out of time, but
we're 20 minutes out. But
which means
we are
almost out of time.
We're almost out of time. But we do have one last thing to close out the episode for you, which is our classic segment. Everyone knows and loves it. Agony Aunt.
Oh, I did a different segment.
Oh no!
Dear Agony Aunt, I'm struggling with finding my place in my new Dungeons & Dragons group. While the other players seem to effortlessly engage with each other and the game world, I find myself hesitating and unsure of when and how to jump into the action. It's like I'm constantly on the sidelines, watching the adventure unfold without feeling like I'm an integral part of it. Whether it's during role-playing interactions or combat encounters, I often feel like I'm waiting for the perfect opportunity to contribute, but it never seems to come. It's frustrating because I want to be involved and make meaningful contributions to our adventures, but I'm not sure how to break out of this cycle of hesitation. How can I find my footing and become more actively engaged with the rest of the party without feeling like I'm intruding or interrupting the flow of the game? Hesitantly yours, the Wallflower Adventurer.
Oof. Wallflower Adventurer. It's kind of, look, it's easier, I think, said than done. And in a scenario where you are joining, whether it's an established table or a table where there are just people who are maybe more experienced than you or maybe more extroverted than you, what can you do to have your voice heard, to feel like you're part of the campaign, to feel like you're part of the party? I often kind of the occasional time I'm asked to guest on other streams, I kind of often feel I'm a bit of a wallflower adventurer or a participant, because I'm always and that's also kind of a slight. Everybody should ask me to be on their stuff. I never get to play, but the times that I have been a guest on various streams or podcasts or whatever it might be, I often feel that sort of that reservedness, and it's not. I'm not nervous because I'm usually already connected to somebody or a couple of people around that table, and I know them and I know how we all get on and everything, and I like their stuff, so I'm there for a reason. But there's a part of me that feels that sort of, I don't want to cut across here because they're doing a thing and I have a funny quip that I can make, or I have a suggestion that I could add, but I don't want them to think. And if it's a one shot, the one thing I would suggest is, I mean, again, like I said, it's easier said than done, but push through that. Like, and again, you're talking like this is coming from somebody that can take me 40 minutes to push through and get over and get out of my head, because I'm in my head on that. I'm at that table. I've written a character. The DM likes the character, and they want me to be there. So I give myself the time to push through it, and then I push through it. And again, that comes with experience. Now, 40 minutes is still a long time to sit there, kind of like nodding and agreeing, and the occasional hi or whatever it might be. But after that, I kind of find my feet for it. If it's a longer campaign, like if it's a thing that you're joining for a long haul, whether that's a couple of months, a year, whatever it is, my honest advice is talk to the DM. Like, message the DM privately after the game, during the game. I mean, if it's online and you're going on a break, just say to the okay, can I grab you for like literally 2 seconds? I really like being here. I really like everybody's energy. I just don't feel like I've kind of meshed, or I kind of feel like I'm still on the. Is there something that could you throw me a rope here that I can use to like push through? Whether like that, it doesn't have to be roleplay. In combat, can you give me a moment where my character has a thing, good or bad, and then the others have to kind of acknowledge them in some way? And it's not main character syndroming it. It's just I'm not comfortable or confident pushing myself into the spotlight. But if you can hold my hand and lead me into the spotlight with the rest of the players, then I'm there and I'm good. But like it's I go back to that thing of I'm not I might come across as somebody who's very outspoken and loud and annoying and extroverted. I'm not. I am not even the slightest. I am terrible. I am incredibly anxious in most social situations, and unless I can control the situation, hence why I'm always the DM, I find it very difficult to network and to like talk to people. But what I have found worked is have a friend, have somebody with me who can break that ice. And in the case of a TTRPG, a session, a campaign, the DM is the person that can break that ice for you. If you're not confident, comfortable, if you're a little too nervous, a little too anxious, ask the DM to break the ice for you. And like, it doesn't have to be a big, character backflips from a rooftop, lands superhero style, and like guts a guard. It can be that thing of like the door to the tavern opens and in stumbles, a young satyr bard over herself, and a tray of drinks goes everywhere. And suddenly the characters take notice of her and want to engage her, and that's your character. That's your way in. So for me, it is that thing of I've learned myself to push through it. Takes time, but I can push through it. But if it's a long haul thing that we're doing, talk to your DM. It doesn't have to be a big, hey, I need to talk to you. It's that simple conversation of I'm really liking what's happening. I'm not, it's not that I don't want to participate, it's just that unsure how I can start participating, and can you give me my line? Can you give me my in? And I'm good. That's it. And just open the door for me, and I will tumble in through it for you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think you hit upon loads of lovely things there, and it can happen in different situations, different places. Online is a typical one because you're kind of on a screen and you're like, and you're either muted or you're not muted, and it's tough to read body language even in that situation, or just read people and be like, do I just jump in, or like people don't hear you, you get talked over. A lot of crosstalk happens on online games, happens in real life games, and there's a scale too. It's like from one wallflower player to one pick me always player, and then the rest of the table are a bit like they were about to do something, and then the DM's in an awkward position being like, guess they rolled, but like, and you don't want to be like, shut up, like, sit down for a second, we're doing something, because it can be hard to move the spotlight around. And one of the things that I find, I'd be similar enough, like people assume I'm far more confident than I am. It's why playing games is easier, because I can just put on a character and the character is confident, but I'm like, oh, good boy. So I think it is a shared table responsibility. If it's not working talking to your DM, it's okay to find another table. That's always an option. It's okay to talk to the table. You don't want to get into a pattern of this person's arc and this person's arc and this person's arc, because it kind of feels like, I guess, the rest of us are on for a ride. And if you never get around to your arc, you're like, oh, I guess I didn't make my character interesting enough. I don't know. Why am I not getting an arc? So I think it is just open communication outside of the game. I feel like I'm not getting a chance to shine. Lean into party roles. Guys, I'm the rogue. Let me do the lockpicking. I'm the bard. Let me talk. I'm the fighter. Let me, initiate combat. Stop stopping me from making violent situations where I shine. And one of the things I'm going to be conscious of, and I think it is, if you are an experienced player, if you're a veteran player, I notice this all the time at cons. As a DM, as a player, a few of us will look at each other, and especially if there's mixed ages, mixed experience, we'll often be like, hey, what do you think about we'll put it over there. Sometimes the person playing doesn't want the attention. They're just like, yeah, I think that's okay. And then you hear afterwards, like, I had the best time. Like, I had the best time ever. And you're like, really? You didn't, it didn't seem like you were engaged. And they were super engaged. Mm-hmm. So don't assume either that someone's not, engaging your story. So we're both heading to D&D Era this weekend. And it is something, because of this Haggling event, I'm going to take in, because it'll be a new table of players. We're going to do a little session 0, table rules, all that kind of stuff. And we're just going to make sure at the schedule breaks, is everyone getting what they want to do? Is anyone being talked over? It's kind of my job as the DM in that situation to be sort of the teacher at the top of the room and be like, we're just actually going to deal with this first. And it's like, oh, we'll get back to you, but we'll do this here. I did one thing at an event, which was I'd never done it before. And it was because I had a very hyper kid who wanted to just be involved in everything. And I just came up with 3 rules. We don't fight each other. We don't talk over each other. And if someone's in the middle of something, let them finish. And it was so weird to say, because I'm not all that confrontational. But 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, all I had to say was like, hey, roll 3. And then was like, okay, yeah. And it wasn't like, they weren't being rude. They were just super excited to play. They were just happy to be there. And they just needed a reminding that it's like, okay, yes, sorry, roll 3. Yeah. And that's all it took.
It's always, I think, when you are, in this scenario, okay, from the Haggling Ant, in that live space where it is, again, I don't know anybody at my table on Sunday. I don't know any of the 6 players that are sitting down. I've talked to them on Discord. We're planning stuff out. It's great. They're all lovely, but I don't know them. I don't know who's going to be, a little bit more outspoken. I don't know who's going to be quiet. And it is, and again, you might kind of go, every episode on Ben and Declan On A Roll is them talking about how communication is important. Because it is. It's what makes the best games. Like, talking to each other before, during, and after. Like that thing of having it like before the stream, Ben and I were saying that it's so weird streaming Ben and Declan On A Roll because we're not DMing. Because normally if we're DMing, you have a million tabs open, one of which is usually some sort of instant messaging service. so that the players can message you sort of like, hey, I think this is really cool. Can my character go? I'd like to maybe, and those things. You don't get to have that same level of interaction at these live events, but there are breaks. There is no one says, just because that table over there has started doesn't mean that we have to start straight away. Let's go around and what is everybody hoping for out of this today? And if Jane sitting there or Xander sitting there or whoever it is sitting there, if it's someone who's been playing this game for 30 years and someone who's been playing it for 3 minutes, and that person sitting there is like, I just want to kind of sit here and learn and like figure things out. Do I have to talk as a character? Nope. Do I have to know all the rules? Nope, I don't. Do I have to? Nope, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And like Ben said it as well, you also don't have to play at that table. Like if you are not, like if you've had those conversations and you've talked to your DM and you've talked to the table and they're like, nah, you're grand. Like we've got our own little thing here and you're just not, you're not, it's not that you're not fitting in, it's just that it's not the table for you. Then get up and go. And that's obviously easier in an online scenario, I think, where it's you and a bunch of mates. That's going to be awkward. Speaking of which, I need to have a talk to Eilish as well about kicking her out of the group. Write that down.
We're still live.
Oh, crap.
Let's just say we're moving her to another group. Oh, crap.
But yeah, no, it's like for those more reserved or introverted players, there's a table for you. And I'm always, I volunteer with a youth group in Limerick, and oftentimes it's for kids and teens, and there's always those kids at the table who are not comfortable talking, in character, and it's like, oh, my character says this, and then I will ask usually, are you comfortable with me talking to you? And then you can say your character says whatever they want to say, but are you happy for me to give my best Meryl Streep? And figure it out from there. And like, no, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. Cool. Then my character is going to say this to you, and we'll do it that way. We'll find, everybody finds their feet and their way through this in a big, big way. Prep and all, or no prep.
I think that's a lovely place to end the episode. I think we covered a lot. We went through our 7 to 9 tips on what to do when you haven't prepped. All without prepping too. I know it seems like we prepped. I know it genuinely, aside from the pre-recorded bits, like we just used breaks. We used the exact tools we showed you today. You saw them in action. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm poaching players. I'm here to take them to the big leagues. Come join a show that hasn't been on air in over a year.
No. Okay.
We're probably going to go raid. But if you're ready, let me see if there's any kind of local news or business news or any sort of other news that we can get going. Yeah. We go now to the weather. What was previously reported as smoky snow is now confirmed as the burnt-out remains of locals from the sleepy hamlet of Dragonfell. As these readings show, turns out Dragon not fell, Dragon alive and Dragon mad. Dragon out for revenge on all who stand in their fiery path. So pack the factor 50 if you're thinking of heading out over the weekend. You might just need it. Me, I'll take my chances. I don't believe in that alchemist sunscreen snake oil. The mystery amulet I was found with as a baby is all the fiery protection I've ever needed. That's all from us in the studio this week. We've been on a roll, you've been watching, and keep on rolling, baby.
What Ben said, I am now starting the raid.
We practiced this.
No, it should
be raid straight away.
It takes time, Ben. It takes time. It's not
That's why I write bits.
Okay, I'm starting the raid now. Okay.
Varying lengths of bits.
I think we're raiding, or we're about to raid.
Raid.
I don't know. It may not have raided.
No, we're raiding. We're about to raid. I don't know. I can go into another bit. I've got time. And now in local news.
Are we? I don't know. Are we still streaming? I don't know.
Yeah, we're still streaming.
Okay.
But
I will try the raid again.
It's just slowly counting the raid down.
Oh, is it?
At least I'm seeing. I can join the raid if I want.
Okay, I will stop. Sorry, I thought we were like, it said ready to raid. I said yes, and then it didn't raid. Bye, everybody.
Right. Let's go.
I
need more bits. I got more bits. And in local clubs and recreational news, you'll hear that on another episode.
I have no idea. Why it hasn't raided. This is now.
It's just slowly raiding. Rule 2: don't panic.
I'm panicking. Oh, okay. No, okay, sorry, there was a button. I missed the button. And now we're out. I will get better at raiding, Ben, I promise.
That's alright.
There, like, a button opened up on the left-hand side.
Okay, let me take out weather. That's been done. I need to write more of these.
Where the Rangers are currently on the planet of Aquatar.
That color. Great. The emerald is on. Oh, they're playing Power Rangers.
I will stop our stream.